Today is the first lesson of Unit 3, titled Criminal Law. Although today's lesson seems pretty short in that it's only one slide, there is quite a bit of information to digest, so we're going to start by having you focus on the learning goals, where today we're going to get a basic difference or find a basic understanding between the two of criminal and civil law and locate some fundamental differences between the two. And we're going to look at why laws are made and what criteria needs to be met in order for a law to be made. So the very basic understanding of why we have law is law exists to protect society and individuals and to maintain order. That is the fundamental reason why we have law. And if you recall all the way back from Unit 1, you'll know that we have several different branches of Canadian law. Here we're going to focus on criminal law and civil law. And criminal law is important because it deals with offenses committed against society. And if you remember back to our Unit 1 again, we look at a case citation, you see R versus an individual's name, R versus Woodcock, for example. That means R representing society or representing Regina means that I've committed a crime against society. We also have civil law, which deals with offenses committed against individuals. And we've looked at that in the instance of Woodcock versus Woodcock. If my wife and I were to get divorced and there would be a civil suit or a civil law case based on two individuals, that would be an example of civil law. Furthermore, in a real-world context, criminal law are the things you see on TV shows like Law and Order and CSI for the most part, whereas civil law is seen in shows like Judge Judy. It's a perfect example of civil law, an individual against an individual or a plaintiff against a defendant. The example paints a pretty good picture. Just to sort of paraphrase it, if John here breaks into Hallie's house in an attempt to steal her Bette Midler CDs, which is a crime in and of itself, because who needs Bette Midler CDs? And in the process of this break-in, he breaks the lock, tracks mud all over the place, smashes dishes, etc., all those different types of things. He is going to be, if he's caught, charged with a criminal offense because he's committed a crime against society. He's committed the break and enter and possibly theft. These are all crimes that are against society. These are laws that we've made in place to protect society and individuals and maintain order. So he has violated that, so he'll be charged with a criminal offense. However, him being charged with a criminal offense doesn't do anything to allow Hallie to gain back money or payment of any of the things that he's broken. Like, who's going to replace the dishes that were broken? Who's going to replace the cost of the lock, and the carpets need to be cleaned because there's mud all over the floor. So who's going to take care of those payments? It would be up to Hallie then to sue this individual in civil court so that she could get back some of the value of the property. Obviously, we don't need to get into insurance and those types of things, but if Hallie wants to get back some remuneration for damages to her property, then she would need to sue this individual in civil court. And without me reading verbatim what is in this section on the nature of criminal law, I'll allow you to do that yourself, but in a nutshell, it just goes over how laws are made and what needs to be examined if we're going to make a new law. So essentially, the basis of criminal code is that laws are made to reflect society's values and beliefs, and they can be changed. And the example, most current example I could find of things being changed was here. And in September 2010, a Toronto judge decided that our current laws regarding prostitution fail to protect the basic human rights of prostitutes. So because that judge has found this to be against or a violation of their of prostitution and their rights under the charter, she's essentially ordered to change the laws, basically legalizing prostitution. Now, that happened in 2010. It's taken 2 years. We're now in 2012, and it is being further reviewed. So at this point in time, in 2010, when she struck that down, because a law change like that could potentially make a lot of people uncomfortable, it would have to be reviewed. 2 years later, again, now that we're in 2012, it's even been further passed along and is on the brink of becoming legalized. So the discussion that they're having now is how are they going to do this in a major city like Toronto without making a lot of people really upset and protecting the rights and freedoms of the people that choose to work in that trade. So that's an example of a law that's currently being changed right now. What I would like to draw your attention to in testing situation is I could ask you something: what conditions must be met if an act is to become subject to criminal penalties? And you would need to know these 4 bullets here: that the action must harm people, the action that is being brought before the courts to decide whether or not they're going to make a law against it must harm people, the action must violate the basic values of society, using the law with the action must not violate the basic values of society. So you can think about with this one, it's kind of like the Oakes test, if you remember back from Unit 2. And criminal law can also make a significant contribution to resolving this problem. So an example of something like this in modern times could be when they look at bullying in an online forum or on the internet, because that wasn't a problem 20 years ago. So they would look at bullying online and say, okay, can we make a law that can protect people? Can we make a law that's going to fall in line with the values of society? Can we make a law, or when we make the law, will we be able to make a law that won't violate people's rights? And when we make this law, will it actually solve the problem? And the remainder of the class was used to work on this and prepare for an upcoming test. So if you weren't in class today, make sure you get this done. And that's it.